All right. Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to have you join us on our Wednesday wisdom sessions, where we invite teachers from all around the world, from all traditions, to share the wisdom they wish to share with us. Today, the topic is egocentrism is the center of our suffering, learning not to compare and developing selflessness. Wow, so what does that mean? So today in the talk, we'll explore how egocentrism is at the heart of much of our suffering. How does constant comparison keep us trapped in suffering? And we can learn how to release this habit, and how that can open the door to selflessness and inner peace. What a great topic to explore, the topic of selflessness, and the topic of how that can help us to be free from the suffering we experience. So today, we're very lucky to have Bhante Sanāthāvihārī joining us in person. Usually he does not reside in Australia, so we're so lucky to have him here in Sydney with us to give this talk. So Bhante is a Mexican-American Theravāda monk who resides at Sarathchandra Buddhist Center in North Hollywood. He's a student of the late Dr. Bhante Madawela Puññaji and the founder of Casa De Bhavana, an outreach project to bring the Dhamma to the Spanish-speaking world. He is also the co-author of Buddhism in 10 Steps. Bhante is a US Air Force veteran who served in the Air Force for 9 years and was deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Bhante has a bachelor in religion and a master in counseling psychology, marriage, family therapy. He's also a certified facilitator in mindfulness-based substance abuse treatment for adolescents and mindfulness in recovery. Bhante is currently enrolled in a Buddhist Chaplaincy program at Upaya Zen Center. What a great pleasure to have Bhante here today, not only with his mindfulness experience, but also with such profound, deep learning in how mindfulness applies with substance abuse treatment and recovery. So today, as always, will be an interactive session. So Bhante will start with a bit of a meditation, and then we'll do a bit of a talk, and then there will be questions and answers for everyone. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat if you're online at any time, and we'll ask those in the question and answer session. If you don't want other people to know about your question, you can privately message me, and I can ask the question for you without revealing who you are. And for those in person, you're very welcome to put your hand up during the question and answer session to ask the question to Bhante. So this session will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. And without further ado, over to you, Bhante.
Yes. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. So I'd just like to first invite everyone to get nice and cozy, get comfortable. We're going to be meditating for the next 20 minutes. So go ahead and find your meditative posture. It can be on a cushion, on the ground, on a chair, on a sofa, even laying down. Just, it's kind of the end of the day, so be a little bit careful if you're laying down. And I would ask of you to have an upright posture, right? So kind of look at your posture right now and make sure that you're sitting upright. Sometimes if we're sitting in a chair, we're tempted to kind of lean back into it like a lazy boy. But let's have an upright posture. Make sure that our shoulders are not collapsing in on our chest. We want to have a nice open chest so we can breathe unobstructedly. And I'll leave it up to you. You can either close your eyes or leave them open. But if you leave your eyes open, just gently gaze about, right over your knees or your toes, just a bit in front of you, and keep your focus there without moving around or concentrating on a point on the ground either. And we'll begin by just gently and slowly, little by little, withdrawing our attention from the external environment. Right? So begin to gather your attention and bring it in. So during the day, our mind is usually going outwards towards the six senses, very outwardly focused. But now we are going to be introspective, focusing our attention within. So today we will be practicing anapanasati, awareness or attentiveness of the in and out breath. And we'll be focusing on the first satipatthana, which is kaya nupassana, observing the body, mindfulness of the body, attentiveness of the body. So now that we're not focusing outside and we're focusing inside, we can rest our attention, we can direct our attention to the breath. We can become aware of breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. And we're gonna try to hone in more and focus in on feeling the breath. So feeling the breath when breathing in and feeling the breath when breathing out. So we know the body through physical sensations. And we want to make sure that we're actually focusing on the body and not thinking about the body. So we don't want to have any kind of noting or doing a play-by-play of the breath in your head, like saying 1, 2, 3, or breathing in, breathing out. We just want to kind of let go of any mental chatter in regards to the breath. The mind's going to think anyways, let it do its thing, but we don't want to think about the breath. We want to feel the breath. We want our attention to be on the bodily sensations of the breath. So feel as you breathe in, feel as you breathe out. And as we begin to get attuned with the breath, we might notice differences, though they may be subtle. The breath might be long. The breath might be short. Just observe, be aware. Don't try to control your breath in any way, just breathe naturally. And be aware of the breath, whether it's long or short. If your mind wanders, no worries. Just gently bring your attention back, bring your mind back to feeling the breath. Breathing in, breathing out. If the mind wanders 100 times, no problem at all. We just bring the attention back to the breath 100 times. If at any time feeling your body feels just too uncomfortable or unsafe for you, please do whatever is necessary to take care of yourself. You can go ahead and open your eyes, or at any time, if anything becomes too uncomfortable, you can even stop the meditation. But for now, if you're feeling safe and comfortable, keep focusing on the breath. And we want to widen our perception of the breath to include the entire breath. right? We want to follow the breath as it enters our nostrils and goes into our body and fills up our lungs, and our chest expands and our abdomen moves. And then our chest contracts and the air comes back out our nose. So to the extent that you can, try to become aware of the entire breath, mindful of the entire breath, mindful of the body as it breathes in, as it breathes out. Focusing on feeling the entire breath. Feel the body breathing in. Feel the body breathing out. Feel the body breathing in. Feel the body breathing out. Aware of the entire breath. Just feeling. Just breathing. And for the rest of our meditation, I would like to invite you to practice some stillness of body and mind. Typically throughout the day, when we feel some sort of strong sensation, discomfort, we just react to it unconsciously. But for the rest of this meditation, as you're feeling the entire breath, breathing in and breathing out, try to avoid any moving. Find stillness in your posture, but don't force it. Don't make an effort. Just be patient. We don't want to make any adjustments to the posture or wiggle our toes or even move our tongue around in our mouth. Aware of the entire breath, feeling the body as we breathe in and out, and developing stillness in body. Let's continue this way for the last few minutes. Coming close to the end now, I would like to invite you to get grounded. To get grounded in the body as we make our way out of this meditation. Maybe you can direct your attention to the weight of your feet or legs touching the ground or the cushion, or the weight of the body on the seat, or the weight of the body on the back of your chair, or your hands on your lap. You can also begin to focus more on my voice, helping your mind gently come out of the meditation. If you had your eyes closed, maybe you can gently start opening up your eyes. Begin to let go of the breath. Bring your attention back to your vision and hearing and smelling. Becoming aware of the external environment. Feel free to move your body now if you like. Gently moving your body. We want to sustain our mindfulness of the body. And with this, we'll be ending our meditation, and we can take a minute or so for anyone if you need to stretch or, just stand up or anything. You can do this in the next minute. So after you finish stretching or standing up or making any kind of adjustments, you can once again take your seats, and we'll move on to the next part, which is the Dhamma talk. Okay, looks like everyone online is also ready. So today, we're going to be exploring how our self-centeredness, our egocentric kind of view is the cause of our suffering. Although the title is a novel title, right? It's just a clever way of saying what the Buddha has already said, right? That the atta, right, self, is the source of dukkha. And the path to freedom from dukkha is letting go of self, letting go of selfishness and egocentric tendencies. So there's many ways that we can talk about this process. But I want to give you a kind of target for you to aim at. And this target is on the threshold of liberation. So you might be familiar with the 10 fetters right? These are 10 things that hold you down, that keep you in bondage, and keep you suffering. They're obstacles to liberation. There are these 10 things that contaminate the mind or taint the mind. And at the level of, at the threshold of becoming an arhat, right? One who is liberated, an awakened one, an enlightened one, an Arya. There is a very subtle self, idea of self there, which is called mana, usually translated as conceit. But conceit doesn't really do this concept justice. You know, for us, conceit has a very narrow view of like superiority when we think about conceit. But here, mana has 3 categories. This type of conceit has 3 different ways it expresses itself. Actually, mana comes from the Sanskrit root man, which means to measure, or it's like a concept, an opinion too. But most of the time it's used as a measurement. So there's 3 ways in which the self measures itself, or that we measure ourselves. One is the more obvious one with the word conceit, right? That we measure ourselves as perhaps superior or better to others. Pride. The other one is that we might measure ourselves as inferior to others, that we're not worthy, that our value is less, or maybe we have no value. That's another way that we measure ourselves compared to others. And then one that usually surprises people is the next one, which is we measure ourselves as equal too. So, you know, everyone's the same. You know, there's no better person, there's no worse person, there's no good people, there's no bad people. No one is smarter, no one is duller. We're all the same. Everything's the same. Doesn't matter what you do. Which we also know that's not true. The fundamental problem with this mana, with this conceit, with this self-centeredness is that it's always comparing. Always comparing. It even compares to itself, right? In the past or yesterday, it's always comparing, even from one moment to another. Oh, last time I had this coffee, it was very delicious. This time is not so good. It wasn't, the experience wasn't the one I thought it was going to be. Last time, Bhante's meditation on loving kindness, oh, it was so nice. This one, I was falling asleep. Oh, I'm not as good. I'm not that good of a meditator as I was last time on Monday with Bhante. Look at everyone else. Everyone else looks so serene. I'm sure everyone else had a good meditation. And I was fantasizing about going on Netflix or Hulu after this talk, thinking about what I'm gonna indulge in after here. I'm no good. Bhante's meditation, you know, it was too beginners. I'm an advanced person. I've been studying Dhamma for many years. This is like, it's okay for those people. They just showed up for the first time to meditate. But you know, I'm here for the real stuff because I'm advanced. I'm an advanced meditator. Always comparing. Always with an opinion. Opinions about everything. Everyone, yourself. Highly opinionated. So this measuring, all the time measuring, is what brings all the suffering. Not only on the individual level, but also on the family level and also community level and nation level. This is the good neighborhood over here. It's the north side, right? Yeah, on the north. This is the good one. Those people over there on the east side or west side or south side, oh no. Those Americans starting all the problems in the world. Those people from that other religion, why can't they just get along with everyone else? Why is that religion always causing all the problems? Not like us, we're so peaceful. We're a compassionate, peaceful, nonviolent religion. That's why we're better. I'm a modern person, not like my parents who came from Sri Lanka or Thailand or Indonesia. They're still stuck in the old ways. My way of thinking is better because I think like a modern Western person. Always comparing. Android, iPhone, electric, non-electric, tall, short, light skin, dark skin. Always comparing. Always measuring. Imagine if throughout the day, so from the moment you woke up to the moment that you went to sleep, you would have to measure everything that you came across with a ruler. You'd get a ruler and you'd have to measure everything. You get up, you measure how your body came up, you measure how you extended your arm, and then you measure the first step that you take out, and then you measure how much water and coffee you put into the coffee maker. You're even measuring how long you take in your breath. You're measuring how long you breathe out. That would be exhausting. It would be so exhausting. Of course, you would be suffering. That would be like that'd be a very cruel sentence, right? It's like you'd kind of be in a hell if you had to do that all the time. That's exactly what we're doing all the time. That is exactly what we're doing. From the moment that we wake up, we're comparing, we're measuring, we have opinions. Oh, today I woke up feeling so nice. Oh, I woke up feeling bad. Right? Or you turn around, you look at your partner. Oh, who's that person there? They don't look as attractive as they did 10 years ago. Always comparing. You get into the car, you start driving. Oh, today's a lot more traffic than yesterday. Traffic's worse today. Oh, today there's no traffic. Every moment, opinions, ideas about things, measuring things, good or bad, beautiful, not beautiful, pleasant, unpleasant. It's exhausting. And what is the center, right, of this measurement? What do we base these measurements on? Ourselves, on me. This is the center of the world, right? This is the kind of like, you are the metric system. You're the rule that's governing the measurement according to your own system of measuring. So of course we're going to suffer if we're stuck in this kind of having opinions about everything and putting everything into categories. Another word that the Buddha uses for this is called papancha, categorization. From the moment that we wake up until we go to sleep, this goes here and that goes there. This goes here, that goes there. This goes here, that goes there. Oh, I don't know what this is. This is similar to this one. Okay, that one goes over here now, but then this one goes here and then that one goes there. And all day you're like this. You're like one of those kind of industrial age line workers, right? In one of those factories, just doing that kind of over and over and over again job. But at least those people, they had a lunch break and they got to go home. You do it from the moment that you wake up till you go to sleep. You enslave yourself to this way of being. So of course, we're going to suffer. Of course, we get tired. Of course, we look for a way out. So that's the deep end of the pool, right? Very deep end, very difficult thing even to even think about how am I even going to get out of this mess, Bhante, right? It's like it's happening by itself. It's unconscious. I have no idea. I can't control it. So the Buddha taught us the gradual training path. And one thing that you can do that's going to get you in that direction is to learn to be more selfless. How do we do that? Well, in the beginning, we can start by practicing dana, giving. That's a form of selflessness, right? So instead of waking up in the morning and thinking, what do I need to do? What do I want to eat? How would I like this day to be? You start thinking, oh, what can I do for others? What would my partner like to eat? Where would my kids like to go? It's not complete selflessness, right? There's still some sort of clinging tendency, right? Because it's my partner, my family, my friends. I'm doing this because of Buddhism, right? But it begins to loosen up this self-centeredness. And that's what we have to do in the beginning. If we just think about complete non-self anatta, if we think about this deeply and rooted fetter of mana, conceit, it seems like an impossible task. It's like I'm telling you to move the Himalayas, right? Or to take all the water out of the Pacific Ocean. It just, in theory, it's possible that it could be done. But you think, well, I can't do it. Maybe next life, then when I become a monk, then I'll do it. Yes, if we focus too much on that side, it's going to seem impossible, but we can work our way there first by learning to do things for others, to dedicate our time and energy, to dedicate our resources to others, when we can, and as long as it's not a detriment to ourselves and to our family and to kind of our just having a basic kind of life that you need. So there's a beautiful line that the Buddha tells the monks. He tells the monks, from the moment that a monk wakes up early in the morning, instead of thinking, what would I like to do? Where would I like to go? He goes to the other venerables and he goes, Venerable Sirs, what would you like to do today? Where would you like to go today? And the other monks do the same. And then they come to an agreement and they do what everyone agreed upon. Do we do that with our family? Maybe for holidays, right? Maybe like when we plan a holiday, we'll do that. Like, where does everyone want to go on this holiday? But that's just a handful of times a year. We should aspire to do this more often, right? Every day, at least on the weekends, kind of have this attitude of, I'm going to put my own opinions to the side. I'm going to put what I want to the side and try to come to some sort of consensus and do what others want, what would be beneficial for others. And then what do we do after we start practicing this generosity? We start giving our time, giving our energy, giving our resources, giving our attention towards others and not so focused on ourselves, being the center of the world. And things have to be the way that we like it. And we don't want to have the things that we don't like or we don't want. Following our own patterns of categorizing things and opinions and likes and dislikes. So the next step that we do is we practice restraint. We practice sila, the precepts. A person who is very self-centered, they only care about their own happiness. If you get in my way, too bad for you, right? I'm going down the highway, right? You better get out of my way, because I'm here for my happiness. Anyone who's in my way for my happiness, they get out of the way. And people who do that are willing to lie, cheat, steal. So the precepts are a way of loosening up this tendency of letting go of, this kind of overindulgent self-interest that we have in what we think will bring us happiness, which isn't really happiness. This misunderstanding will bring us happiness. And we see this playing out in the real world. This is how all the conflicts in the world start out. From fighting about, what type of furniture you're going to get in your house, what neighborhood you're going to live in with your partner, to the city councils trying to decide the zoning and what's going to happen in that neighborhood, and between countries. All the conflicts between countries start this way. And they use force, right? On the global scale, it's war. In the country is law enforcement, physically force you to comply, put you in jail. And in your family, it might be just domestic violence or very cruel words, or holding resources from them, manipulating them in some way. Because you want to get your way. All these things come from I want to get my way, or we want to get our way. So the precepts are a way of kind of letting go of these tendencies, these patterns that we have that impact others. Yes, I'm looking for happiness, but I will not go as far to the extent that I'm going to hurt other beings searching for my happiness. I mean, for many of us, it sounds obvious, but if we look out in the world, we know it's not obvious to everyone. This part is probably preaching to the choir, but it's not obvious to everyone, right? We have sayings like, it's a dog-eat-dog world. What does that mean? Right? It means to succeed, you have to hurt others. You need to eat them. So the precepts is a way of learning to let go of the self-centeredness that causes us suffering. So we have dana, sila, and then bhavana. Bhavana is meditation. And at least for me, one of the best way that I learned to loosen up myself or make it less solid, to lose its solidness of self-centeredness, and for it to become more porous, right, or more transparent, was practicing the Brahma Viharas. Right? So instead of just caring about your own self-interest, right? May I be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. You begin to think of others. May others also be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. To the same degree, that you wish to be well and happy, you have that same kind of goodwill towards all beings. Your own happiness is not any more important than others. But you might have an inferiority complex. If you have an inferiority complex, then you have to realize that your happiness is not lesser than any other one's happiness, right? Your happiness is just as important as everyone else's happiness. So it works both for the superiority complex and inferiority complex. If you think you're better, no, it brings you down. They're just like me. May they be happy just like me. If you think you're unworthy, like, no, all beings are worthy. That means also me, right? So my happiness is also just as important as others. So your self-centeredness, your egocentricness begins to loosen up also by this practice. And then we have karuna, usually translated as compassion. Kindness is better, because we're not trying to suffer with others. We're not trying to feel other people's pain. But we have an interest in wanting other beings to be free from suffering. Right? So it's not only about your own suffering, about you being free from suffering, but you also have a similar interest in the freedom of suffering of other beings. You see other beings suffering, and you want to help them. You wish that they'd be free, and you know that they can. That's one of the reasons I think I talked about last time, maybe even on Monday, about why at least compassion in Buddhism isn't like a sad feeling or a painful feeling. That's not compassion in the way we practice according to the Dhamma. It's joyful. Because compassion, according to the teachings of the Buddha, is to know that there is a cure for people suffering. Right? There's no one who's terminal. There's no one who cannot be free from suffering. It's not like that people have to suffer. There is a cure, and they're capable. Especially if you're a human being, you can reach freedom from suffering in this very life. So we see other humans suffering, right? And like they can be saved. This is great. They can be saved. And all other beings too, maybe just not in this life, but at some future point, they can also be free. So it makes you happy. It's like, I think I gave the same example last time that if one of your loved ones was sick and you were to go to the hospital, see the doctor, and then you're waiting, right? What's the doctor going to say? What's the outcome going to be? And then the doctor says, there's a cure, and there's other people in the past who have been cured. So we know that this will work. You're not going to be sick for long. You can be free from your sickness. That's the karuna. Oh, yes. You can be free. I can be free too, right? So other people's freedom, other people's freedom from their suffering is just as important as your own. So you don't think, oh, I need to suffer. I'm impossible. I'm unlovable. I'm just such a bad person. There's no way I can be free. No, you can. Yes, you can. If you have that kind of inferior point of view. Or if you think, oh, those are just those dumb people. The Buddha said only people with a little bit of dust in their eye, right? There's only few. I can reach suffering, but not the end of suffering, but not them. It's like, no, when you develop karuna, you begin to see, no, they can also be free. You don't think yourself better than others. You don't have like some spiritual conceit. Right? And then we go to mudita, usually translated as a sympathetic joy, right? Rejoicing in other people's happiness. I think that's a better word, rejoice. Although the word literally means joy, mudita. Right? So instead of being envious or jealous or resentful or being a hater, when you see other beings succeed, when you see other beings healthy, when you see other beings happy, it makes you happy. Because they deserve that success just as much as you do, and the other way around. So once again, you begin loosening up the self. And then at the final level, we have upekkha, right? Usually translated as equanimity. Upaikati also means looking inside, like insight. If you look at like the etymology of the word. So what does that mean? So at the level of upekkha, you stop measuring at all. You stop comparing. Because you're equanimous now, right? You're level-headed, actually level-headed. Whether people compliment you, oh, I love your Pokemon Crocs. That's awesome, I want you. I would really like to see you in the new Naruto Crocs that I just saw the other day. That'd be really cool, Instead of just, oh, that's great. I like it when they talk to me like that, right? But then they can go, oh, but now they're all dirty. Nah, you have dirty Crocs. Oh, that hurts, right? Oh, I don't like it. Right? You see someone like a loved one succeed in life, you become very happy usually. And if one of your loved ones passes away, you become very sad. At this level, of upekkha, you understand about karma actions, right? And that for the most part, virtually all things happen due to people's actions, due to their karma. So you're unfazed. You're unfazed by whatever happens in the world. Here's where the Buddha says, like, Puttasa lokadammehi chittam yasana kampati, right? In the Mahamangala Sutta, the mind that is not moved around by the things that happen in the world, the Ataloka Dhammas, the 8 vicissitudes, worldly winds, that is the highest blessing. So when you reach that upekkha level, you're at that phaseless stage where you stop categorizing like we usually do. You stop measuring. We're always measuring, right? But when you're at upekkha, the measuring stops. So you have that temporary freedom from being self-centered. That's called the cetto vimutti, right? The mind is liberated. The chitta, the mind is liberated from all unwholesome tendencies. But even at this point, it's only temporary, right? So once you come out of that upekkha state, because if you haven't reached, arahantship and you're just practicing going through the Brahma Viharas, whether it's in formal meditation or practicing Brahma Viharas in everyday life, there will be a point where you come out of it. And then if you do happen to reach the full awakening, arahantship, then it becomes akupa cetto vimutti. Akupa means not shake. It doesn't shake anymore. Unperturbed or permanent liberation of mind. That means where your mind will no longer categorize, right? No more papancha, no more mana. It doesn't start thinking about comparing to others, comparing itself to others. That's the highest level. But you can get a taste of it in upekkha. You can see for yourself where the mind becomes so still. It's no longer categorizing. It's no longer comparing. All opinions start going away. Even concepts start going away. And that's the gradual training, the gradual path. Or one way we can talk about the gradual path towards being free from our self-centeredness, which is the cause of all of our suffering and all the suffering in the world. Me, myself, and I. Okay, right on time.
Wow. Perfect timing. That's amazing, Bhante. Thank you very much for this talk. And now we're moving to the question and answer section of this session. So if you have any questions in person, you can ask your question to Bhante. Am I on mute? No, I think they can hear me. You can hear me, right? Online? Yes, they can hear me because my voice projects.
Oh, okay.
And for those of you online, if you have any questions, feel free to pop your questions in the chat and I can read them out to Bhante to ask those questions. Private questions, you can pop them to me privately. So Bhante, we have a first question.
Mm-hmm.
How selflessness differ from self-neglect in the Buddhist approach? That's the first question. And then there's a second one.
So the Buddha does give us like a hierarchy of needs too.
Oh, okay.
And the ideal state would be to do something that is both good for oneself, good for others, and good for all. Right? That's what we're aiming at. And everything, every thought, every word, every physical action, that's at the top, right? Of like wellness. Then after that, it's kind of surprising. We would think that the Buddha would say, do good for others, right? And put oneself second. But the Buddha says no. Why? Well, we have no control over other people. And even if we try to help them, maybe they won't want to accept. So we can't place our own well-being or even the well-being of others into their own hands. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. So then the Buddha says here, the second best thing that you can do is look after yourself. Right? You may not be able to look out for them or for, you know, everyone, but at least look after yourself. Third category is, well, if you can't even look after yourself, well, maybe you can kind of help others. You could do good for others, right? They may not accept, you may not be able to actually help them, but you might do something. That's okay. You should do that. And then the one that we should never do is those actions that hurt us and hurt others. And that means it hurts everyone, right? So here we see that the Buddha prioritizes actually taking care of yourself, you know, than having some sort of like martyr, sacrificial kind of heroic attitude of trying to give up your own well-being for the benefit of others. You know, at least in early Buddhism, that's not there. It doesn't exist in the early text. The Buddha really says, you know, you have to take care of yourself because this is the only being you have some sort of agency over, right? So there's a very controversial line. Where is it at? Is it in the Sutta Nipata? Can't remember right now exactly where it's at. And then some translators have tried to like tiptoe around translating it so it sounds a little bit nicer. But in this discourse, the Buddha says something like, one should not sacrifice one's own well-being even for the benefit of the many.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So then I've seen some translators, you know, do some gymnastics on it. And I get it, you know, it's not popular. It doesn't sound nice. But it makes sense with this system that I just told you that the Buddha gave us in this other sutta, right? Where he prioritizes, you have to prioritize yourself and then others come after you, right? I mean, but the ideal is that we want everyone to win, right? We want it to be a win-win situation. That's the best one. But if we can't, at least good for yourself. And good for yourself always means that, good for yourself means that, doesn't mean like you're just gonna like be blind to the effects that are going on, because within the Buddhist system, we understand the idea of karma and wholesome actions and unwholesome actions, and that you'll have to experience the results of those unwholesome actions, right? So you don't purposely do things for your own benefit that are going to harm others. We definitely don't go there, but you might kind of, for a time, like maybe ignore other people, right? Other people's, what they need, and just focus on yourself for some time. Did I answer the question? Yeah? Oh.
I think you did very well, Bhante. Just a follow-up question on that too. So, where do we draw the line between taking care of ourselves and being selfish? Versus selfless, you know, taking care of ourselves and selfish. Like, where do we draw the lines?
Once it starts leading to your own detriment, once unwholesome states start increasing in you and wholesome states start decreasing, that's it. I mean, you want to actually not even get there. You want to be aware and not let yourself fall into that. But if you see that happening, then it's too much. Right? Then it's too much. Or if you're so self-centered that you start hurting others, right? Then that's the other extreme.
So it takes wisdom to kind of know at what point it becomes greed and at what point it's you just taking care of yourself.
And that's why the Buddhist path starts off with panya, right? You don't have the panya, but we can borrow it from the Buddha, you know? So we start kind of like a theoretical panya. You hear the Buddhist teachings, you kind of have this kind of conceptual understanding of what it is. And then you filter your experience through those teachings, right? That becomes like your new software. And you'll be like, oh, Buddha said this, or Arahant Sariputta said that, or Mahamoggallana said this. Oh, I should kind of live according to this until I know for myself, right? So you kind of use the Dharma, not the one that one knows oneself in the beginning, but that others have experienced as kind of a filter to kind of gauge what to do. I mean, it's in there in the very practice of when we practice, like today we practice Anapanasati, Satipatthana. When we're doing this, we're engaging with the 7 factors of awakening, right? So first we start with sati, mindfulness, and then what's next? Does anyone know what's next? 7 factors of awakening. No, investigation of dhammas, Dhamma vichaya. What does this mean? It means to have discernment of what is kusala and akusala. So when we're practicing, right? When we're mindful, whether in meditation or out in the world, we're aware of what arises. Is this wholesome or unwholesome? This is unwholesome. No, thank you. I'm not going to feed that. This is wholesome. Okay, I'm feeding this one, right? So right in the very beginning of the practice, we have this discernment, and we may not have the wisdom to know what's right or wrong, but that discernment will be based upon the Buddha's wisdom. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. I hope that answers your question. And if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to ask as well. So the second question, Bhante, is how would one achieve their goals without being self-focused?
Mm-hmm.
Great questions, by the way.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do have to be self-focused, because if we're not self-focused, then we can hurt ourselves, right? So becoming selfless doesn't mean that you neglect, yourself, but it means that it's not like your main priority in life, right? Like the main thing is only me. It's only about me and my own happiness. Through the understanding of karma, right? Karma and vipaka, actions and results. You start seeing not only what's good for you in this moment, which is how most people think, like in this moment, this will be good for me. If I make this deal and I lie to this person, right? If I don't tell the truth to this person, then I'll get some sort of win. You start thinking long-term. Well, the Buddha said, well, if I lie or if I misspeak or if I cheat, I will suffer in the future. So then you wouldn't do those things, right? You wouldn't do those things that would hurt you or hurt others, because you have this understanding that at some later point, what you thought was going to bring you happiness, right? Like just being focused completely on you, in the long term, that's actually going to hurt you and bring you more suffering, right? So there's that kind of understanding of the Kamma that is so important and so fundamental to the teachings of the Buddha. I mean, practicing dana falls under karma. Practicing sila falls under karma, right? Even practicing meditation falls under karma too, because there's 3 types of karma: mental, verbal, and physical. Right? And then the Buddha's own knowledges, in order to how he understood reality, first he understood his own past lives, which means karma, right? He says, I was like this, and then in the next life I was born like that. Then he looked out into the world. Second abhinya he had, second super knowledge, was he saw beings passing away and arising due to their karma. So he saw someone die in that moment and they were reborn like that. So he understood karma. So then this system of karma helps us understand not only what we usually think is good for us, right? Because it's short term. This life is even considered short term. Mm-hmm. You start thinking long term, like not only this life, later in life, but the next life, and 100 lives, and all the way to, many universes, and all the way up to awakening. So once you start thinking that way, any kind of action that's going to be to your own detriment or to the detriment of others kind of just doesn't make sense. You don't want to do it. You show restraint. You're even scared. Like, if I do that, something bad's going to happen. So I just might as well avoid it. I won't even do it. Like most of us won't touch like a hot pot on the stove because we learned when we were small not to touch it. And it's still with us today that, you know what? I already learned my lesson once and I'm not going to do it. So this is just kind of an invitation for everyone to kind of explore karma more and to do some more studying and to take it seriously. I mean, karma is a very important part of the Buddhist teachings, and that's going to kind of help inform the kind of more contemplative practice, the more kind of focus on kind of like what some people would, it's very popular now to see Buddhism as like self-care. If you practice Buddhism as like self-care, it can lead to what this question was saying about, when you take it that way. Yeah. It becomes just like indulgent, right? And so one way to kind of temper that is by also understanding the principle of actions and results.
Well, that was a great answer. Thank you, Bhante. Do we have any questions in the audience?
Yeah.
Oh, you do.
Yes.
So you just said that Buddhism is seen as self-care.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say Buddhism is to sort of counter that point? Like if people see that?
Mhm. Yeah. So I mean, I think the most easiest thing to do, or the most obvious one, is just to actually see or read or listen to what the Buddha actually said, and it becomes obvious right away. But it's when we kind of we take the Buddha out of the teachings, you know, or we take the teachings of the Buddha out of the practice, where it starts coming that way, right? So then we're like, oh, we're gonna teach meditation, but like actually let's not talk about the Buddha or karma or anything, because people will feel uncomfortable. Okay, now you're setting up this kind of dangerous situation where people might take it the wrong way because they don't have the context, right? So like if you were to talk about, so for many years now, I think 5 years, I've done a lot of research on mindfulness studies, especially when it comes to mindfulness-based interventions, psychotherapies. And people would see these studies and they'll be like, oh, mindfulness is great, right? It helps people with anxiety. It helps people with depression. I'm going to go practice mindfulness on my own to help me with these things. No, the studies are not about people practicing mindfulness at home on their own or going to a temple and practicing. The studies are on usually groups of people practicing together with an instructor, meditation, and not only meditation too, they're doing yoga, they're getting psychoeducation, right? They're like having group discussions about what's going on, how they feel about things. They're doing this for 6 to 8 weeks or 10 weeks. And then after that, they're encouraged to have like a daily practice. So then people just get a little piece of it, right? And when they get that little piece, they're going to misuse it. So if I know we're trying to share the Dhamma, and you know, in the beginning, I was kind of guilty of this myself, where we kind of want to make it more palatable, but there's a risk there, and we just have to be aware of that risk, right? And I think there's where this whole like self-care industry with like meditation and yoga and Buddhism has kind of gone astray, because there is no anchor, right? There is no pillar to hold everything together. It's just like, I want this, I want that, and this and that, and then we're just doing what we do on Amazon. It's just like the same thing again, right? It's like a little kid at a buffet. He just gets the weirdest things and puts it all together. You're like, you're gonna eat that? Yeah, I'm gonna eat that. So good luck.
That's
Yeah.
so true. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what then, Bhante, is your view of how Buddhism should be shared? Like, how do we anchor ourselves at the same time make it sort of
More palatable.
not palatable, like help people with it?
Yes. So I think the best thing is to be honest up front. You know, our Buddha had a special power that no other Buddha had. Satcha. So our Buddha Gautama, the Sammasambuddha Buddha Gautama, he was unique to other Buddhas in that on his path, from the moment he made the Bodhisattva vow until he became the Buddha, he never told a lie. Never. He did other things, like he was a wrestler in one life and he broke someone's back. And you know, so he wasn't the Buddha yet.
Yeah.
So he did other naughty things, but he never lied. He had perfect speech. So then that's why when he became our Buddha, he was able to articulate the Dhamma so well. That's why the sutras are so like beautiful to listen to, right? And that's why they're so like detailed and analytical. You're like, oh wow, this is like so deep. Because that was his superpower, to talk, right? To be honest. And in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, it says one of the prerequisites for practicing loving kindness in the Brahma Viharas is Uju and Suju. Uju is honest. Suju is very honest. What does very honest mean? It means that if something is true, beneficial, timely, kind, and I always forget the fifth one, even if you're scared to say it, you should say it. No? If it's going to hurt someone, you shouldn't say it. But if you're scared to say it, that's not enough, right? Like, oh, I'll lose my fame. I won't be famous anymore if I say this, right? Or this person may not like me if I say, no. I mean, if it's true, if it's beneficial and all these other categories, you should say it, even if it comes at a cost, right? So I think we should follow the Buddha's footsteps and be honest with people. This meditation is a Buddhist meditation, right? And I'm going to teach you Buddhist ideas for you to have the context. You, in the beginning, whatever works for you, go ahead, use whatever works. You don't have to become a Buddhist, right? But I have to let you know that this is placed within a larger system. instead of trying to hide the system, right? And you put everything under here and you're like, oh no, it's just look over here. Don't look down there, you know? Don't look over there. I believe that people have the intelligence to be able to, you know, and also the tolerance to be able to hold all of that, you know, and then skillfully be able to choose what works. And if we give them all of that in the beginning, we're actually giving them like more other options instead of just limiting to like, we're only going to teach you mindfulness. Mindfulness will work for them, but some people, they actually need loving kindness, or some actually people, they need to learn to restrain themselves, you know, and not hurt themselves or hurt others. Some people, maybe it'll be more beneficial for them if they learn about charity, right? So I think it's also kind of limiting, very limiting for them, because Buddhism has so much to offer. If we're really compassionate, we'd, you know, show them everything. We'd give them the keys to the house and be like, look, everything's here. You're welcome. Take whatever you like. Instead of only thinking, be like, oh, this person is not, they're not ready for all of this. I'm just gonna give you this, you know? It's kind of also like insulting in a way, right? You think like, oh, you're not there yet. That's what we're saying. You're not there yet. So we're just gonna give you like a watered down version of the practice because you can't understand yet, right? It's gonna be too difficult for you. Yeah, that's like infantilizing, or like making them like they're little kids. Like, yeah, so there's a kind of there's this problematic side to, you know, Buddhism, where nowadays I mean, this is not even a topic what we're kind of talking now, but because of the question, it evangelizes, like it's kind of like a incognito evangelizing Buddhism, right? We put it in the schools, we put it in the hospitals, we put it in all these places, but we just won't call it Buddhism. We'll just Buddhism by another name. And I talked to some people, they were very honest, who were within a very popular Western, more secular version. And they said that when they started this early in the 80s and the 90s, that was the whole plan, to kind of incognito teach Buddhism, you know? Yeah. But they were honest because they're like, it's for the benefit of everyone. Everyone's going to benefit. Yeah, you're also like lying. They're like, but it's for the greater good. So I found that some Buddhists are very guilty of this, about like, oh, it'll be for the greater good of the society, right? But you're not being honest, right? So you're kind of tainting it in some way. But yeah, I have a whole soapbox rant on on this, because I actually believe in people and I want to give them the keys to the house, you know, and not be like, oh, no, you won't like these parts. I'm only going to give you what I think you like. I don't know what they like. I don't even know what they're ready for. I'll let you be, you're in charge, you choose, instead of me trying to filter it for other people.
Yeah, that's correct.
Kind of like giving them the whole shelf they can look at and pick from, rather than you just showing them like half of the shelf. Sorry, was someone gonna say something?
And people love the Buddha. In the United States, the #1 most sold statue is the Buddha.
Oh, really?
They sell it at what do you call it? At Home Depot, hardware store, big hardware store. They sell the Buddha at Target. You can find Buddha at Target. Buddha's everywhere. People have Buddhas all over their house. They have Buddha pictures. I mean, people are not scared of the Buddha. People are not intimidated by the Buddha. So, I mean, we should just give them the Buddha then.
I have so many questions. Like, more than Jesus, the Buddha is the most popular statue?
Yes.
That's amazing.
In the United States, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Bhante, on that topic, actually, oh yeah, someone made a comment. Gives them the real deal, not just the photo in the catalog. Someone has a question actually. So, I can see you, KN, so I'll come to you after. So, related to what people are ready for, not ready for, this person asked, is it necessary to believe in karma or reincarnation, as I have a hard time understanding, trying to grasp the idea of suffering in this world and potentially suffering in the next world?
Yeah, so no one is forcing you to, right? And you shouldn't deceive yourself into believing something that you know it isn't true and like faking it. But we need to be very honest when we read the text. It's there, right? It's there. So there's this kind of how can I say it? We're kind of like in this very precarious situation, or this kind of like situation of uncertainty for a long time, even myself with some of these things, about where you're confronted with what the Buddha is saying, and you don't understand it, but at the same time, you're like, oh, I really like Buddhism, but I can't get this part, right? I can't get this part yet. And that's okay. That's fine. If you're in that position, that's fine, right? The move that I caution against is, this is not important. If you make that extra step, because I don't understand it, or because it doesn't go with modern understanding, therefore it's not important. That's too much then, right? I'm not ready, that's fine. You're not ready. Okay, you don't get it, that's fine. That's okay. But I've seen too many times where the move is like, this doesn't align with me, so therefore it's wrong, right? Or, it's not real, or it's just metaphor, or we start coming up with an excuse for it because we want to believe in a system that makes sense, right? We want a whole coherent system that makes sense. If we find fault in the system, then it's very uncomfortable for us to believe in something that has a fault, right? Like, oh, Buddhism's not perfect because it has this very superstitious, it makes you feel uncomfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, you start to try to find ways to rationalize your own practice, right? I don't want to be an irrational person. Like, this is like superstitious. I'm not a superstitious person. Let me come up with some excuse to make myself feel good about why I still practice this, right? Then we go too far. But that's a common struggle that many people are going through, right? So just, okay, I'm in this struggle. It's fine. But let's not come up with stories about it or kind of diminish. It's right in front of our face. When you read the suttas, it's there, right? And most monks will tell you about it too, right? So like, we just kind of have to be able to hold both the pleasant and the unpleasant together. Just because something makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean you should throw it away. We have to be able to be with the comfortable, with the uncomfortable, with the boring, with the neutral, with the extravagant, right? And with like the super painful too. We should be able to hold everything.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Bhante. That made me reflect on a few Buddhist friends I had who's just secular Buddhists. And it becomes sort of a hindrance on their path. So they miss out on this beautiful teaching, the whole of the beautiful teaching. And I like what you said about, it's just open-mindedness, really. It's, you don't have to really believe it. Like, for a long time, I also didn't believe in karma or, like life after this. Actually, it was a scientific panel discussion about afterlife that convinced me this afterlife. And then I'm like, oh, maybe it's real. It was like a university that studied about afterlives. But yeah, not letting it be a hindrance to your practice. Like, okay, I don't believe it right now, but I'll leave it there. Like, it's okay, kind of thing. But maybe it's possible, maybe not. Like, leaving it open-minded kind of thing that doesn't, whereas for my friends who are secular Buddhists, completely not open to it, they really miss out on quite a lot of the whole of the teachings.
Like, my position, to share it with everyone, how I work with it, is that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
People ask me, is rebirth real? I don't know. Is karma real? I don't know. But this is what the Buddha says. And I put my faith in the Buddha, Saddha. I put my confidence, I put my trust, because so many of the other things, right, have turned out to be true.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you yes. I don't know. Is there devas? Is there nagas? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know these things, but I have trust. What I don't try to do is deny it. Right? Because how the people who are denying it, they don't know either.
Yeah.
So they're saying something that they don't know if it's whether it's true or not. So I'm just saying, this is what the Buddha says. This is a part of Buddhism. To practice Buddhism, this is really helpful according to the system. I'm going to take this on board, right? I have trust, but to be honest, I don't know, right? So there's where the Zen comes helpful, right? Don't know mind, don't know, beginner's mind.
Yes. Beautiful. I didn't know we're sipping some Zen today in the talk as well.
I'm incognito Zen. The people who will look me up online, they'll find out. I'm undercover.
Love it. Yeah, any other questions? We've got 4 minutes.
What about KN, right? He had his hand up?
Sorry, KN.
Yes,
Hand
yeah.
up.
Sorry, this one may be a bit intense, but I actually work with survivors of like violence and abuse. And what happens in these scenarios a lot of times is the conflicts would have been internal within families. And sometimes the survivor is probably the only person who knows. And the rest of the family or, the unit wouldn't know. And a lot of times their healing involves confronting and coming out with whatever has happened. But what this leads to is sometimes when they come out to other members of the family, a lot of times they choose to keep quiet just because they want to, maintain those family ties. And also, whoever has, whoever has been violent or the abuser themselves, a lot of times they have families and those people will be impacted. So a lot of times, the survivor does not get any support. And this kind of leads to a secondary layer of trauma for them, making it worse. So our advice a lot of times is to say, to stand up, if confronting is going to help them heal, then do it. Just because, we believe that somebody who's been in the receiving end of something that's not been right, they should be the one healing. And if somebody else has done actions that were not right, then they are the ones who should bear with the consequences. As much as, unfortunately, there'll be other people involved who've never been a part of it. But, in terms of thinking of right and wrong, it comes down to which, there's going to be harm whichever way we go. And also, even with the family, just staying quiet. According to them, they're doing the right thing because the trouble is not present and it's in the past. But in a certain way, it's actually not right at all because, they're just causing more destruction to the person who's experienced all of this. So what would you say in, very difficult situations like that?
I'm a strong, almost absolutist when it comes to respecting people's own self-determination.
Yeah.
So I always side with letting the person choose for themselves, even if it hurts me, even if I can't stand it or I can't understand it. That's it's their life. But always presenting people with many options, creating support, right? Creating safety around them to facilitate whatever kind of choice they want to make, or having them make it a more informed choice of whether they're going to do something or not, or go another route. I think that's definitely important. I give them more education, give them more like different capacities, different ways of looking at the problem, so they can make a choice on their own. But at the end of the day, I would say it's truly up to that person. Even if we can't understand it, and even if it hurts us, we should just grant them that right of self-determination. For me, at least, I feel like that's I'm very absolute about self-determination, people being able to choose the kind of life that they want to live, even if it's terrible. But from a Dhamma perspective, there's that whole conundrum of like, if you see an animal run by or a person run by and then someone's chasing them, right, with like a weapon, or they say they want to kill them, and they ask you, did you see the person? Did you see the person? If you say yes, you're helping them kill the person. If you say no, then you're lying. So which is the better one or the other, right? Then I remember that the Buddha stayed silent on many things, right? The Buddha stayed silent. So sometimes we have to just stay silent, right? If we don't feel safe, like if there's a murderer coming or a hunter, you don't feel safe, you might stay silent. And that also might have consequences, like you said. No matter what you do, sometimes there's consequences, right? So there's times where our silence definitely will lead to negative consequences. But that's just another option. That's just kind of to present. Sometimes we fall into like dichotomizing the world, right? It's black and white. You have choice A or choice B. There's a lot of choices. It's not always one or the other. It's not black or white or all in or all out. The world is like, it's a spectrum of choices, and there's always many choices. Sometimes it's hard to see them. They're not so obvious. But that's all just to say that, sometimes it's just about like trying to be open to creativity, like developing creativity in one's mind. If one's in that situation, to possibly see different ways of like working through that situation, or if someone's like a social worker that's trying to help that person, try to, think outside of the system that we're working in, because the system is set up, to be like economically efficient, not necessarily to help the person to, what's best for the person, because everything's like, I did a year in community mental health, so I know a little bit about the limitations of how like these systems and organizations work. And sometimes we just need to be very creative about how we support this person and kind of have the patience for that creativity to foster and bring up some new solutions. But yeah, I appreciate the work that you're doing. It's very difficult work to do, and it's very tolling and painful. And sometimes, I mean, there's just, no matter how hard we try, the outcome, we don't get the outcome that we would want or the outcome that person would want.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and on that note, we're 8:33, time to wrap up this session. So thank you so much, Bhante, for this session. Really wonderful to get that, start with like the link of how selflessness can be evaluated through the practice of Brahma-viharas and the generosity and the precepts, but also how that relates with our topic, which is conceit and pride and so many things. So that was, I found that to be a nice little suspense, kind of like, in a novel, you like start with this, and then you eventually build up, and then you build up to arahantship. So I thought that was wonderful. And then the question answer was, I loved your answers on all of these questions. Really clarified, our concerns in practical life, but as well as when we are maybe sharing meditation with other people around us, like how do we actually do that in a way that is authentic to what we're learning, and most importantly, in a very honest way too. So really thank you for your time here today, Bhante. For everyone here as well, like Bhante will be in Sydney for 3 months, right?
Yes.
Yes, so there'll be plenty of chances to pay respects to Bhante, to visit him. You do Friday night talks, isn't it?
Harris Park?
Yeah, at Harris Park. Would that be for the next 3 months or?
Yes.
Yeah. So
And then I think I'm doing most of the Mondays.
most of the Mondays
for Metta Center.
Yeah, oh, wonderful. So plenty of chances to further talk with Bhante and get to meet him while he's in Sydney. So Bhante, before we finish up, would you like to do a dedication of merit?
Yes. So I'm a big proponent of inner compassion or self-compassion. So we'll dedicate the merits of this practice to ourselves today.
Oh, yeah.
To ourselves. By the power of this merits, punya karma, may we be free from bad friends and always have good friends until we attain nibbana. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satam samagemo hotu yavani bhana patiya.
Thank you, Bhante, and thank you everyone for participating, coming in person and online, for all your awesome questions and presents. So, yes. Some notifications up on your screen. So, we have Monday meditation sessions in Bankstown and also online. We have yoga classes Tuesdays in Bankstown, 6:30 to 7:30. We have Wednesday Wisdom, 7 to 8:30 in person in Parramatta, as well as online. And we have monthly workshops between 5 to 7:30 on Sundays, last Sunday of every month, but the next one will actually be 8th of December. So it's a little out of cycle. And yeah, that's pretty much all we have. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a lovely evening and see you next week. Bye. See you.